Hello and welcome back to Underlab. One character I've never really talked about is Temmie, mostly because Temmie isn't a very important character within Undertale, and they're more of a hidden Easter egg than anything else. As most people already know, Temmie is based off the artist of the same name who works alongside Toby Fox on Undertale. But really, just what exactly is a Temmie? Why are they only found within Waterfall? What's up with their strange way of speaking? There's a lot of questions about the Temmies that actually have legitimate answers. And what's up with Temmie Village itself? Well, it's time to find out the truth about Temmie, and everything you never knew about this bizarre secret character. Temmie is found in Waterfall, sometimes as a monster encounter. What the player may not realise is that there's actually an entire village full of them, which you can only reach by following a path that's initially invisible. These creatures appear to be living in a cavern all by themselves, talking in their strange way while trying to raise funds for a certain Temmie to go to college. Now, what exactly is a Temmie? Evidently they're a monster, but most monsters are comparable to other things. For example, many people feel that the Dreamers are similar to goats, and the canine unit in Snowdin is quite obviously composed of dogs. So what then is a Temmie? A popular belief is that they're cats, and fan animations and drawings often depicts them behaving like felines. However, what cat has 2 additional ears hanging down by their cheeks? An interesting idea I recently saw was that Temmies could be dogs. Now you may be wondering why that's so important. Well, as we know, Toby Fox's self-insert within Undertale is the annoying dog. As I explained in a previous video, there were doggy depictions of everyone who works on Undertale. That would make Temmie Chang the sole exception if her self-insert is supposed to be a cat or something else. However, the Temmie is an ambiguous creature, and I thought it may actually be more likely that the Temmies are more closely related to dogs, if we consider the fact that the rest of the development team was given a canine avatar. Then there's the fact she says can't blame a buck for trying, meaning everything adds up to really indicate that Temmie is probably a dog. That's one mystery cleared up, but we've got a lot to go yet. What exactly accounts for Temmie's strange appearance other than her being a monster? It turns out that the character Temmie was actually inspired by a doodle drawn by one of the real-life artist's friends. It's supposed to embody various characteristics about her, and in the image we clearly see a Temmie using a computer. Strangely, even though the monsters do have access to computers, we don't see any Temmies using one. Could it be because Temmies are actually on the same level of godlike power as the annoying dog? Perhaps because they know they're in the world they helped to create, they act in such a bizarre fashion, enjoying interacting with the player character. That brings me onto their odd dialect. Temmies speak with no real coherence, using capital letters and lots of exclamation marks. This is probably based off how certain questionable individuals on the internet think it's funny to type in a way that isn't exactly what I'd call legible. However, it is pretty funny to think that there's an entire village of creatures with such hyperactive tendencies within Undertale. That is until we meet Bob, who speaks with proper grammar and punctuation. Bob clearly isn't like the other Temmies. Bob may not even be a Temmie, despite looking exactly like one. So why is Bob different? Well, obviously, it probably is just a funny joke. But interestingly, Bob proves that the Temmies are probably a lot smarter than they're letting on, and their whole strange way of speaking may just be an act. This lends further credibility to the idea that they're akin to the annoying dog. You may feel we never see the Temmie's true power if they're capable of the same things as the annoying dog. However, there is one case where the Temmies reveal their true power level. If we allow Temmie to go to college, the next time we visit the shop, it has an interesting item called the Temmie armor for sale. Now, this is no ordinary suit of armor. In fact, it's one of the most powerful items in the game. Adding hugely to all of your major stats, it will make most fights trivial. It drops in price every time you die, showing a sympathetic side to the Temmies. Now, the real question is how the Temmies got their hands, or rather their paws, on such such an incredible item. Keep in mind that they also seem to be aware of the fact that we're able to reset time. Examining the item tells us that it was made with Temmie's college education. That proves that Temmie made it herself, and so we can only speculate about how powerful your average Tem is. It surely took a lot of powerful magic to make such an item, as it really isn't your typical set of armor. Not to mention the Tems are the only ones with the ability to buy your items. It seems that despite needing money to go to college, they already have an infinite amount lying about just to buy whatever they feel like. The Temmies may very well be the richest monsters in the entire kingdom, with the exception of perhaps King Asgore himself. That's a pretty funny concept when you think about it, but then, is it really that surprising? Notice how the Tems have an entire village to themselves and one mushroom. Snowdin Town has a variety of monsters, just as Metaton Resort does. In fact, Tem Village is perhaps the only area in the game so densely populated by a single species of monster. Perhaps there's a reason for the isolation. With their apparent magical power, their huge coffers of gold, and how they've hidden themselves away within a secret part of Waterfall, the Temmies are almost like a secretive elite of Undertale. Working from behind the shadows alongside the annoying dog, they're the true masters of the world. Or maybe I'm just overthinking things. What about the Tems' deep history? Now, that by itself may be something of a loaded question. They don't exactly have a history as far as we can tell. If you ask the Temmie shopkeep about it, she just says that Tems have a deep history, echoing your own words. What's more interesting, however, is the painting in one corner of the chamber. If we examine it, we're told that it represents the Tems' history, and if so, they had a very curious history indeed. A lone Tem is depicted standing upon a dragon. Once again, I'm sure it's all just a big joke, but what are the implications of this painting? Were the Tems once dragon slayers, or were they dragon riders? Perhaps the latter is more likely, considering that dragons and Tems are both monsters. Though it's never directly revealed in-game, it seems more and more likely that the Temmies are actually the harbourers of incredible power, despite the complete lack of effort they make to show it. In fact, there's a lot of similarities between them and the annoying dog. Don't they seem similar in the respect that they do essentially whatever they feel like at whatever time they wish? Here's an example of what I mean. The annoying dog appears whenever he feels like, including during the battle with Papyrus and to steal the legendary artifacts away from us. The Temmies don't quite do that, preferring to remain in one place, but there's no denying that they're capable of things just as crazy as the annoying dog. They may not have the same powers as the Toby dog, but they're certainly capable of some crazy stuff, such as the creation of near invincible armor and the apparent desire to mess around with the player. So, as it turns out, it's very likely that Temmie is far more powerful than you probably first thought. There's good reason to believe she could easily rival the annoying dog if she wasn't so busy fooling around in her own little village. Speaking of which, the village is little more than a cave with a shop. However, the Tems seem perfectly content, despite the fact there's surely not enough space for all of them. That's probably because Temmies don't need to eat, drink or sleep, being omniscient monsters and all. They may very well be capable of virtually anything, just like the annoying dog. But also like him, they choose to use their powers to fool around and have fun. They have no real bearing on the story because of this, but it's interesting to think that they're most likely simply holding back. I doubt even the results of the genocide route would affect them. They're just gone living in their strange little village, talking in their strange little way. The Tems therefore are one of Undertale's most impervious and potentially strongest characters. It's just difficult to know for certain. Or quite possibly the entire place is just one massive, ridiculous joke. It certainly wouldn't be the first example of such within Undertale. Now remember to eat your daily Tem flakes if you want to grow up strong and go to college. Who expected Temmie to be so powerful in such a strange way? It's a good thing there's no way to really anger the Tems within Undertale, else I'm sure we'd face the entirety of their wrath. Have you ever purchased the overpowered Temmie armor before? It seems to be there mostly to help players who are struggling out of a bind, and Toby even recommends only using it for encounters you find yourself unable to beat otherwise. It's a nice way of keeping players who are more invested in the story than the gameplay involved. Then there's the fact that it's the only place where you can sell items. Despite their silly ways, the Temmies help out the player in more ways than one, proving themselves to be unexpectedly resourceful. In that regard, they're pretty much the opposite of the annoying dog who's typically getting in your way, aside from one time he spares us from Papyrus's special attack. What do you think? Is Temmie one of your favourite characters? Be sure to let me know. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't anger a Temmie on a dark and stormy night, and I'll see you next time. before I go, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to my patrons, my head scientists Asgorn Shi, Cameron Vigil, Kay Jensen, Sophronius and Mary, and my Underlab scientists Crystal Sleet, Nicholas Dux, Armin Arlett, Marisa Ray, Corey Kidwell, Yushio Koroni, Sarah Wydra and Emily Gatewood. If you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out the Patreon link below, as well as the video that explains why I'd so massively appreciate your contribution.